So essentially, this is what's going to happen. Right now, the Fed, Bessent essentially wants Powell's job. I mean, that's what's happening in clear and concise manner. He wants his job, and Bessent wants a full review of everything that's happening. What kind of review is he looking for right now? Basically, Bessent is aligned with Trump and has publicly urged a comprehensive and institutional review of the Federal Reserve. So Bessent wants to have a complete review of the Fed. What does that mean for you, right? What is it? What is really going on? Well, what's really going on is basically they don't want to fire him because they can't do it. They want him to leave. So I'm telling you right now, there's a huge amount of pressure on the Fed on Powell to leave his job. So what are they doing? Besides the building, which we've heard about, what they're doing is that they're doing a comprehensive review. The same way, like Bessent is saying, the same way if you were to review the FAA. What are these guys doing? Planes are crashing everywhere. What is the Fed doing? Well, because you know what? The Fed has been talking, a little bit tough on the tariffs. He's been fear mongering and saying, well, the tariffs are going to come. We don't know what the impact is going to be on inflation. Therefore, we should not be doing this. We shouldn't be listening to this guy. And therefore, we should be going, we shouldn't be, we should maybe raise the rates. So it's crazy talk, right? So what's really happening is they want him to leave his job. And of course, at the same time that they are investigating him, Bessent is also starting to look for replacement. And by the way, he's going to be part of the replacing crowd as well, which it's quite interesting. So not only is he leaving, but he also wants him to be replaced, and he's going to be the one that's going to replace him. What are we talking about? What we're saying, and join this channel if you want to understand what's going on behind the scenes. The behind the scenes is this. One, they want him to leave his job. That's because Trump went to Bessent and said, listen, I want him out. And Bessent said, we can't fire the guy. It's impossible. He's too big. He's going to have too much impact on the market. I want low rates. Well, you're going to get low rates because he promised them. Plus, don't forget, 2 of the 7 governors are on the board over at the Fed are Trump appointees. And one of them, Christopher Watt, he wants to be the Fed chairman. Okay? And so is Bessent, who happens to also want to do the review on the Fed to figure what are these guys really doing at the Fed. And what they're doing is they're creating fear-mongering, essentially. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, the Fed, these guys have PhD. They know what they're doing. Hey, Hamid, what does the Fed really do? Let's take a quick review, my friends. Let's take a quick review as to how accurate have the Federal Reserve in predicting inflation. And I will tell you, over the past few years, the result has been mixed. So Bessent might have a point here in saying, it's fear-mongering for no reason. You're scaring your children for no reason because, quite frankly, your history, your record in terms of predicting what's going to happen is pretty bad. Hey, Shoro, how you doing? It's pretty bad. Okay. In 2021, major misses. The Fed underestimated inflation sharply in 2021. In fact, Fed Chair Powell himself admitted the error in late 2022, saying the Fed misjudged supply constraint and consumer demand dynamics. So the Fed is not the most accurate party in this situation. Of course, you're going to be, what do I care? Well, you need to care. You need to care about what the Fed is going to do because it's going to impact the rates, the house you're going to be paying, right? Your mortgage. It's going to impact the CD rates. It's going to impact the stock market. And by the way, I believe that right now, let me tell you 3 things that you need to know right now. These are the 3 things that you need to know. 1, full review going on right now. Full review of the Fed. More importantly, full review of Powell means you're going to need to leave. There's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure. And mark my words today, Once this guy is out, see the kind of job that he's getting. I am betting they're prepping him for a very nice package. They're probably offering under the table, obviously, a bunch of offers. Great job, high pay. Just get the heck out. Okay. 2, the pressure is on. Trump, like I told you before, Trump does not give up. Trump does not stop. Trump wants him out. And Bessent is saying, well, then we're going to force him, we're going to ask him to leave. That's easier. Okay. In fact, on Bloomberg, one of the top, El Arian, actually said, very, very big advisor over in England, basically said, well, maybe he should leave because he knows the pressure is on. You can't do your job under those conditions. Okay. 3, they are making deals in the background. Right now, they are offering all kind of deals to Powell for him to leave because he's starting to become ineffective. So what does this mean for the stock market? That's what you want to know. What is this going to be? What's this going to do to the stock market? Well, essentially, expect the market to go up for the entire summer. Why? 1, the economy is doing great. 2, any impacts on the tariffs are not going to be seen quite yet. And what I mean, the impact in the tariffs, it's already happening. I mean, it's already happening. Amazon is already raising its prices. So they raise prices on 2,400 items, believe it or not. On small items, cheap items, so you won't notice it. But prices are going up. Today, GM announced, listen, I got to raise prices. This is too expensive for me. I have to raise prices. So you're going to see an impact. You are definitely going to see an impact. But by the time it permeates, and this is what you need me for, and don't forget to subscribe. As it permeates through the system and gets to the CPI number, which is really an all-encompassing number on certain very specific items, you're not going to see the impact on the CPI until probably August or September, probably September, October. Why? Because it takes a while to permeate. And the Fed has said that they are going to look at the numbers. Now, I'm sure you've seen, I've seen myself, that price of going up already. It's just that it's a numbers game, right? They're going to say, what's the CPI doing? The CPI was at 2.7% versus 2.4 the day before, the month before in June. But still, it's a CPI. It's still very, low inflation historically speaking. So it's not, it's not the end of the world. So that's what's great, right? So what's going to happen is the market is going to keep going up because on top of that, the guy that wants to be the next Fed, whose name is so Scott Bessent obviously wants to be the Fed chair, and I think he's going to be. But you've got Christopher Waller. Christopher Waller, basically nominated in 2020. He's one of the 7 governors that's going to decide the rate in July. I could tell you that this is going to be a very, we're going to carry it live on this channel, but it's going to be a very lively debate because he wants to be the chair and he's going to say we need to lower rates. I mean, we're not seeing anything in the numbers, so expect lower rates. So if you're going to buy a car, if you want to buy a house, I would wait a little bit because I think that either Powell leaves is going to be a major incredible thing, but then again, lots of incredible things have happened with Trump right now. So don't assume that this is going to be business as usual. But as my subscribers, what I want you to understand is what's going to happen before it happens. You don't want to make decision after the fact. You want to make decisions before the fact because that's how you make money. So what are we going to do? We're going to basically wait for the summer as the market keeps going up. Then what we're going to do, we're going to be very careful in September because as the Chair Powell is on his way out already, there is no way he's going to stay through December. The pressure is too immense on him because everything that he's going to be doing now is going to be a problem. I'll tell you what, suppose, because he's going to come back in July, right? Powell is going to say, I am going to lower the rates. What? So you're bowing to Trump? So you're not independent anymore? No. I'm doing it because there's no inflation. Well, inflation is still high. It hasn't come down. So what are you doing? Okay? So if he says, I am not moving, and they're going to tell you, what? You're not lowering the rates? But but there's no inflation. 2.7% is nothing. You see what I mean? So whichever way he's going to work it's going to create uncertainty now. And this is what Bessent and Trump are doing. They are creating, they are building, they are undermining his every move. In addition to that, they're also looking into the building. Although, this building business is not, such a big, humongous situation, right? At the end of the day, all we're saying is that maybe they spent a little too much on the building. Who cares? We all know that they spent too much money anyway. But the point is that now Jerome Powell is on being undermined, so therefore he's going to leave. So for you, it means that you're going to have lower rates. And even if you don't have lower rates in July, it's going to have to be in August. Now, of course, what's building up in the background, and this is what you have to worry about mostly, is the fact that inflation is slowly, very slowly creeping up. The point is, when is it that it becomes too much? Well, as long as you keep rates the same, it's okay. The issue you're going to have is if rates starts to come up, inflation, which is already happening. Take a look at trueflation and you're going to see. And they are successful and the Fed starts lowering the rates, my friends, we could be in big trouble. Why? Because you cannot lower rates if outlook is life expectancy is going down, cost of living is going up. Exactly. So you're going to have to be careful because what's going to happen, you're going to create even worse inflation that happened in the 70s. Now, of course, right now you need to understand that Bessent, who is talking and wants to investigate and wants to understand what's happening, it's not fair because he also wants the job at the same time. So as usual, what we're doing with Trump, we are coercing the process. We're pushing, we're tugging. Now, remember, that same mentality that's having him review the Fed from soups to nuts also means that what is connection to Epstein again? Remember, there was one. Well, yes, there is a connection to Epstein with Donald Trump. He used to party with him, and not so much just him. Remember that what Epstein used to do is basically he would essentially get all these billionaires together and collect their money. And this is how he made money. And he gave them, we know what happened with the girls and everything else. And Trump happened to be, this is how you met Melania. Wow. But the point is that this is how these people got together. But now this is coming back to haunt him. Why? Well, because the MAGA people want to know what's happening. The MAGA people want to know what is going on with Epstein file. Now, why do they want to know? Because he said he was going to describe. In fact, he also released the situation with the killing of the civil leader, Martin Luther King. Now, he wants to know what happened. Release the information. It's not my business. A good neighbor minds their own business. You know how it is. Well, yeah, the only thing is this is big news. You know what this is big news? This is big news because the MAGA people is the power behind Trump. And if he loses that power, then it's going to be very difficult for him to do anything. But at the same time, Trump wants to do what he wants to do. What does he want to do right now? He wants Powell to be gone. And they told him, listen, you can't fire this guy. This legally is impossible. And by the time you would do it, Powell would sue back, and then the Congress would get involved. It would be a mess. So I think what Bessent told him, he told them, listen, what we're going to do is we are going to simply push him and tugging, make his life miserable. So whatever he does is going to be viewed differently, and then he's going to have to leave. I am telling you that this Fed chair is going to leave. Now, of course, is this going to be destructive to the market? No, because he's leaving. He's not being fired. He's leaving. So at the same time, Bessent is bringing people to the table. Who is he bringing people to the table? He's bringing he's bringing himself to the table. He's bringing Waller, who happens to also be a candidate to become the next Fed chair. So you're bringing all these people in. and we're just waiting for him to leave, and then Trump will nominate Bessent. I am telling you, that's exactly what's going to happen. So this is going to be fantastic for the stock market. It's fantastic if you want to buy a house. It's going to be fantastic if you want to buy a car, whatever, because rates are going to go low. He was George Soros' money man. Well, these people are, they're operating on a different level. And this is where, for my subscribers, what I want from you and this channel, this is what this channel is about. This channel is not about, gossip about the news and telling you, this, because you get that everywhere. What we're trying to figure out is what is really going on. What's going on in the background? Because if you understand the risk in any kind of situation, then, my friend, what's going to happen is you're going to take advantage of it. How are you going to take advantage of it? One, right now, what you want to do is you expect the market to go up. Now, be careful. I'm not saying buy everything in the stock market. Why? Because the market is overvalued right now. The market is overvalued, and every day that goes up, it gets even more overvalued. What does that mean? The P ratio, I expect the dollar to collapse. Quest is correct on that. The reason Quest is saying that is because there's going to be $9 trillion of money being refinanced in the system. Okay? So as you're refinancing this, where do you think you're going to get the money? Well, we're going to go to China. China is not giving us any more money. Japan is tapped out. So what the Fed is going to have to do, the Fed is going to have to print more money. And when you do that, but you could do it. Your reserve currency. You have the right to do that. You're going to debase the dollar, and that's what Quest is talking about. And the dollar is actually collapsing right now. I mean, not collapsing, but the value of the dollar is dropping. And that is a problem, right? Because the dollar is worth less and less and less and less. Now, all these things are long-term. This is not for September. Right now, short-term, market goes up. You're going to have rate cuts. Now is probably the time to buy. By the way, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but Tesla's got some fantastic deal right now since nobody wants the car anymore. And it's amazing how, the money system depreciates by design. Yes. So what's going to happen after that? Then I'm going to expect that Powell is going to leave because he has to leave, because whatever he's doing right now is not sustainable. If he raises rates, it's going to be in trouble. He's going to be in trouble. If he doesn't do anything, well, he's not going to raise rate. But if he lower rates, he's in trouble. If he doesn't do anything, he's in trouble. Trump wants him out, so they're going to review and pick and look. Now, I don't know what they really was going on at the Fed, but is this something that they should be worried about? We shall find out. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to plan ahead and buy in the stock market right now. But what I would do is I would really focus on small company stocks, small caps. Take a look at my Patreon channel. Why do I want to look at small caps? You want to look at small caps because they're very cheap. You want to look at small caps because when the market crash, and it will, unfortunately, you don't want to crash as much as the other guy, basically. I know, but that's... And what you might want to take a look at, you might want to take a look at options. You might want to look at a few put options. Why? Because, listen, rates are going to come down and inflation is going to be up. That's a bad combination. It's a bad combination. I know that the economy is doing well. That's true because the consumer keeps spending. But unfortunately, it is not a sustainable position from the tariffs perspective because take a look at today. GM announced today that they're going to take a hit. So basically, what Trump is saying is, fine. You know what? You take a hit. You take the pay. You made too much money, right? Apple, quite frankly, deserves to start paying a little bit because they really don't pay any taxes. I don't know if you know, but Apple's over there. They have this thing in Ireland where the taxes-wise, they don't pay taxes. So I think Trump, in a way, is trying to say, listen, now that you bring the stuff in the U.S., you have to, I want the tariffs. I want to start collect some money from you people. The trick is, will they pass the price to the consumer, which is you? And they won't until as long as Trump has the control. and this is where Epstein, believe it or not, comes in, right? The corporation don't pay taxes. That's true. I mean, Quest is totally right on that. Check it out. They don't pay taxes because they basically, incorporate themselves over in Ireland where there's no tax, and then they funnel the money back in. It's legal. You just don't pay taxes. But now they're saying, fine, you don't pay taxes, but each time your product comes in, 10%, 20%, 30%. So Trump does not like free market. It sounds like planned economy. And speaking of planned economy, be careful. This is one of my eight now, risks that I've identified. You need to worry about what's going on in China. And I will explain to you why. China is a planned economy. What do? Let's start making cars. Okay. Well, how do we make cars? Well, here, I'm giving you a loan, and you could build a factory and you could make cars. Then I go to the people that want to buy cars, and I am going to tell them to finance the cars, and I'm giving you the money. So that's why it's a planned economy, and it works great as long as they keep pumping and people actually want to do, and there's enough demand for it. But what's happening right now is there's not enough demand for all these items, and of course, you want to export, and that's what they've been doing with the U.S., where they've been exporting to the U.S. a lot. But now the U.S. said no more exporting because that's going to be, I'm going to tax you. So that's being reduced. Like, for example, the rare minerals, even though some of them have increased, but it's way down from last year. So these people mining the stuff in China don't have a job anymore. I mean, they're losing their job, right? So that's the planned economy is no good because what's going to happen is they need to do something. And this is why I am telling you that I'm concerned, and you need to be concerned. Why? Because they need to build something. And if they can't build it, because right now they have a huge amount of deflation in China, what's going to happen? They're going to need to find a bad guy. And the bad guy is going to be the U.S. And all you need to do is, frankly, go into claim, basically, Taiwan as yours, and is used to in our bombs. Yes, we need things from them. They refuse to sell. Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want to give you, or they don't want to sell. Quest is correct. They don't want to sell you all of these rare minerals. And what's going to happen is they're going to need to find a bad guy. And what's going to happen? They're going to invade Taiwan. And once they're in there, the U.S. is going to have to do something. Now you're going to see Pete Epstein, the defense secretary. Let's see how tough he is with no weapons, because the U.S. only has a week worth of missiles. And they know that, okay? So once you're going to be in there, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, and China has a tremendous amount of ability to build lots of stuff very fast, as we know, because they've been practicing since 2020, which is the global the trade organization, right? Since they've entered the WTO, World Trade Organization, 2020. They've been building up like crazy, so they know what they have. 1 billion engineers. Yes, they are very competitive in China. So as long as they make cars and sneakers, it's okay. Be careful when they start making bombs. So that's one of the other risks that's on my list. What are the other risks that I have on my list? First of all, the Trump economy. But right now, my friend, the Trump economy is doing just fine, so don't worry too much about it. 2, the dollar. The dollar is going to be a problem at some point. Not right now because we're still a reserve currency. 3, the tariffs. That's fantastic. Best deal ever. Collecting almost $300 billion this year. And it keeps on going, $2.5 to $3 trillion. So what could go wrong? Again, remember, it all ties up to the MAGA people and the power that Trump has. As long as he's got the power, they are not going to touch the tariffs too much. The one that's really touching the tariffs and it's increasing prices is Amazon. But you have to understand that Amazon owns Washington Post, which is not a big friend of the president. In fact, originally, what they had done is they really, I see food shortages in the future. Yeah, I'd be concerned about that. Number 6. Iran versus Israel. You need to worry. You need to worry about Iran versus Israel. And don't forget to join this channel because I'm explaining all the major risks that we have. We need to look for the risk so we could plan for it. So Iran versus Israel is a problem. And the same way Trump can't give it up, right? He can't say no. He's got to get into what's going on with the chair. And he wants him out. He can't get him out, so he's going to leave on his own. He's going to get back into Iran, Israel. And the way he's going to get back, he's going to say, where are the weapons? Where is the 800 pound that everybody's bugging me about? Which they can't find, and they're going to have to find. And once they find it, then we're going to have to deal with it. But the only way you're going to find it is you got to be on the ground. And Iran saying, no, you cannot go on the ground. They say, fine, if I can't go on the ground, then I'm going to bomb you again. And who's going to help? Israel. Why? Because that's what they've been doing. They've bombed Syria. They bombed Yemen. Forget Gaza. Okay, I'm sure they have their good reason. But the point is, Netanyahu needs to get into the game all the time and needs to keep fighting because that's what he does. They said they would let inspector in when Israel asked them to. Yeah, well, it hasn't come on yet. And even the Europeans wants to get in there. They want to inspect. And Trump. So they're going to wait. I mean, Trump is busy with other things. But Trump is not going to forget, right? Trump is not going to forget. And at some point, they're going to go back in there. And this is a problem. Because then if Trump does this, if Trump starts again with Iran for whatever reason, the MAGA people are going to be very upset. And if Trump loses the MAGA people, then he loses his power. Then more companies are going to start saying, I need to increase my prices because it is becoming too difficult. I mean, don't forget, we're talking between 10 to 30% increase in tariffs, which is fantastic for the government, but these companies are taking it in the chin. At some point, they're going to have to pass the pricing in. And worst, what if and this is going to be the topic of a discussion tomorrow in terms of Europe. Europe is saying, listen, we're not going to take it laying down. We're not going to let it happen to us. We are going to do something about it. Now, what are they going to do? We'll see. And you have to be careful with Europe because Europe is not just one person, it's a bunch of people. So they could do retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. Like, for example, you're charging me 30%? Then I'm going to charge 30% each time Netflix is collecting money in Europe. I'm going to charge 30% on Netflix too. Okay? So you're going to lose a bit of Netflix consumer, right? So that's not going to be good. But the point is that because it's not one person, they may decide, you know what? We could do it. Doesn't matter. Nobody's going to be blamed in particular. It's going to be Europe as a whole. Be careful. That could happen. And they're talking about it. Okay? Expect the world to start isolating. Wow, Quest is so correct. Yes, the world is starting to isolate. In fact, what the U.S. wants to do is very simple. It's just close it. Well, we're already closing the border. But the point is maybe be careful because if you're Canada and Greenland, you're going to be incorporated. Canada, unfortunately, the new guy is not that strong. The new guy is a bit weak. The new guy was supposed to do something, right? The Canadian Prime Minister, he was supposed to get in there and do what he was supposed to do. Did he try to do anything? First, he tried to appease Trump for more border security and fentanyl. Remember, he was saying, "Okay, fine, Trump, I could deal with him. Yeah, we're gonna do some stuff at the border for you, and we should be good, right?" And Trump said, "No." Okay, so what do you want? I'm gonna do retaliatory tariff against you, and then they say, no, never mind, we're not gonna do that. So what's happening with the Canadian Prime Minister? He's losing his luster, but he figures, you know what? At the end of the day, even though 75% of the goods are exported to the U.S., almost 80% are protected under the free trade agreement with Canada. So you say, well, we're safe. I don't think. But now, yesterday, I don't know if you heard, but Bessent essentially said, hold on. We probably, not Bessent, the trade secretary said, we probably want to renegotiate. That would be a lot of trouble for Canada. Why? Because now the 80% that they thought protected is not protected against Trump. Everything is going to be up for grabs, and you are going to pay 30% more. So you could see the strategy, right? The strategy is you push, you tug, you push until it breaks. And frankly, these things needed to get done. And the people in Canada are pretty pissed about it, obviously, because they're saying, well, then we're not traveling to the U.S. The amount of Canada and Mexico are working around the U.S. Well, yes, they are working around the U.S., but you can't. But that's going to take a while. And frankly, the people in Canada are pissed. About 80% drop, 70 to 80% drop in traveling from Canada to the U.S. by Canadians. So that's major, right? But the thing is, unfortunately, what are you going to do about that? Because the US is 25% of GDP. So you cannot not deal with the US. You could start to circumvent the US, but I'll give you an example, right? Take a look at what's happening with the wine, right? The wine in Europe. Right. So basically, they're looking at between 30 and 50% tariffs. Right now, they're paying 10%, but it's going to be higher. They got a letter. I think Trump was like 30%, some ridiculous number. They're going to say, well, you know what? Let's sell the wine to someone else. Do you know how many years it took to the wine merchants in France to develop the market in the U.S.? It's not like you just go and ship it. It took 20 years to get that market developed. And the US pays big money. You pay big bucks for the French wine. You're not going to be able to circumvent that quickly, and they know it. Trump knows it. So what are you going to do? You're not going to sell? What are you going to go to China? You're going to go to Spain, to South America? They get their own wine. And unless you start to sell it very, very cheap, you're going to be in trouble. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to pay the tariffs, and that's probably the strategy that the smarter one are doing. You just have to wait for Trump to go away. Trump could go, he has another 3.5 years to go, but he could go away in a different type of way. He could go away if he loses the MAGA people, if he uses the power that he has. Why do you think in that meeting, when the Attorney General was asked a question about Epstein, and he says, what? We're talking about this still? Very dismissive, right? Now he's asking for the file to be opened by Congress. Who told him to do that? The MAGA people said, listen, you said you were going to show it to us. You're going to have to show it to us. Look what happened when he bombed Iran, right? He went in there and he basically said, no, guys, I'm just going in and I'm just bombing and now we're out. Okay? The next day, his defense secretary had a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff to show and demonstrate to the world that it is really taken care of. It wasn't a mistake, and the whole thing is gone. And out of that hour meeting, I don't know if you remember, from that hour meeting, 30 minutes was spent to say, you guys are picking on us, and this is not fair, and we did all these things. It had nothing to do with an actual description of the event. It was just like some guy complaining. You could see they were under tremendous amount of pressure. So don't underestimate the power of MAGA. Do you remember when Ted Cruz went on TV and he was talking about European accent, when he was talking about what's going on with Iran, right? He was saying to Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson, right? Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, two Republicans talking to each other. He says, "Do you know what's going on in Iran?" Yeah, I know. I mean, who are they? Arabs? What are they? Yeah, they're Arabs. No, they're not Arabs. They're Persian. Okay. How many people are in Iran? Oh, I don't know. He said, "What's all the questions?" Well, you want to do regime change and you don't know anything about it. The point is that Tucker Carlson, MAGA guy, right, was pummeling, literally. It was almost like a betrayal of sort, right? And that was a problem. That was a big problem for them. And you need to be careful because the MAGA people are very careful. So very, very powerful. So for you, what is it? Why is this channel important? This channel is important, and I want you to subscribe so you could understand what the heck is going on in this world is because you need to be fully aware of all the risks involved in, because all these people are making decisions, right? And that's going to impact you. How is it going to impact you? First of all, look at what's happening with this Fed chair. Okay, if Trump decides to fire the guy, that's going to be a major disaster because he's going to lose credibility. So what he's doing is basically asking him to leave. He's not talking to him. I think Bessent is doing the talking, and they're negotiating. I am telling you right now, they're negotiating with Powell. They're negotiating to get him out. Why? Because they want lower rates. They need lowers by July. I will tell you why they need the lower rates. First of all, the U.S. owes $37 trillion. The average rate, the world is moving away from the dollar and the U.S. You know, my subscribers are pretty well informed. The world is moving very slowly, unfortunately. I mean, you can't be on top forever. So you have to be very careful, extremely careful. And the concern, obviously, is that what does that mean? It's moving away. Well, the world is moving away. It means that we don't need that many dollars anymore, right? I mean, think of it this way. The U.S. is the only country that says, ship me a bunch of things and I'll give you a bunch of papers. And people take the papers and this is great because I use the paper I could use anywhere I want. Don't be stupid. The president wouldn't fire him, and I'll bet he will not resign. Well, we shall see. No, I agree that he cannot. I agree that they cannot fire him. I mean, it would take too long. No, don't forget. Hold on. 1950, Truman did not like another. Look at him. I forget the name of the guy, but Truman did not like the idea that he wanted low rates, and the Fed chair at that time in the 50s wanted to raise the rate because it was inflation. He didn't like it. Yes, correct. So what happened is essentially they wanted him out and they couldn't get him out. So they had a meeting and they decided the 1951 agreement that this Fed would go and then they would make an agreement. So Truman was able to get rid of the Fed chair. I don't know if it was firing, but that Fed chair got. But unfortunately, the new guy that came in, unfortunately, did the same thing because he knew that rates had to be higher, raised, not lowered, especially when there was lots of inflation. So the concern is obviously they can't find. But can he resign? Listen, if you're him right now, right? If you're him right now, and you're looking at the numbers, well, you said, well, inflation was 2.4, it went up to 2.7. You're going to lower the rates? Why? Inflation is under control, so you should not lower rates. If you lower the rates, don't forget, when we say we shouldn't, you have to understand how this thing works, right? So the way the Fed situation is, you've got yourself 12. What do we have? We have 12 board members, right? You have 7 board of governors, right? 7 governors, and you have 5 regional presidents. Okay, out of the 7 plus 5 is 12, and our guy is 13. They need to vote. Okay, and basically 2 of the governors, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, remember that name, they're both Trump appointees, and that's it. So he will try, but is illegal like most things he does. Come on, Callahan, doesn't look like you like Trump much. It's probably not going to happen in that way, right? So they cannot pressure the board because there's not enough dissent. We could have a dissent among 2 out of 7s are with Trump. So, but you don't have 7 out of 7. Okay. So probably what's going to happen is they're going to have dissent. There's going to be pressure. But if you look at inflation, and the next inflation is not coming out for a while, so you won't know by the time the meeting comes out. So it's going to be very difficult to do anything to the rates. So what are you going to do? Well, you're basically going to have to look at each other in the face, and then kind of agree that no change again. But I will tell you, even a guy like Christopher Waller, If he doesn't make noise, if he doesn't really, he's already making noise. I don't know if you know, 2 days ago, he said, I want to be chair. And by the way, I think that the chair should be independent. And by the way, I want lower rates. So if he doesn't make enough noise, he's not going to get that job. Okay? So expect a very, very contentious debate in July. The point is, if you're the Fed, if you're Powell, do you really want to put your people through this? Do you really think he's going to want to do this? It's going to be mass confusion. On one end, whatever he says is going to be looked differently. If he says, I want to lower the rates, they're going to say, well, yeah, you want to lower the rates because you're being pressured. If he doesn't do anything, you say, what the hell are you doing? There's no inflation. You're doing it against Trump, right? In fact, this is what Bessent said recently. He's basically saying that this fear-mongering. He criticized the Fed fear-mongering over tariffs and questioned its mission execution. What is your mission really? Okay, I mean, you did lower the rates when you thought Kamala was going to go through. That's interesting enough, right? So, and this is important for you to know. I mean, I know it's a little bit gossipy in a way, but obviously this is a huge impact in your life, right? Because this back and forth is going to be a problem. Why? Because if Trump wins and rates are lowered for whatever reason, and lowered again, and then the new guy in May comes back and he also lowers next time. And then, because don't forget, it's not, you lower the rates, it's just you call, you do, and it's done. And then inflation starts creeping up because that takes a while. But when it hits, you could have a major disaster on your hands. So join this channel. Don't forget to also don't forget to take a look at the Patreon channel. And more importantly, what you want to do right now is, because you want to take care of yourself, you want to take a small caps. Small caps are very cheap right now. That's one thing. Second, I would protect the portfolio. How do you protect the portfolio? Not by selling. No, I would buy long dated put options. I would buy long dated put options because right now they're very cheap. And if the market dropped by 10, 20%, you will make some money. I mean, find out what they are. And in fact, if you take a look at my Patreon channel, you could see some of the trades that I'd put last year at the end of July. I made a tremendous amount of money because of Trump and Tesla and all that. And lost a lot on the way down because very surprised as to what happened with Elon Musk. But that's the name of the game. The point is, you need to protect your book. You need to make sure you understand your book, and you need to understand what's happening in the situation. What are the situations that we're worried about? I was down to number 4, which was the tariff. Number 5, which is Powell. Number 6, which is Iran versus Israel. And number 7, which is China versus the U.S. I'm going to do a video on that this week as well. And you're going to see that there's a lot of revelation. Now, of course, it's not big news, right? Because nobody cares. Because it's not news, right? They expect people to react to the news. You don't want to react to the news. You want to know what's happening before the happening. And this is where Black Swan is about. What is a Black Swan? A Black Swan is an event by, it was a book actually written by Taleb Nassim that basically says that you need to worry about things that you don't know. Well, then you shouldn't worry about them. Well, okay, then you just wait for it to happen then. But you're going to get hit. Right. For example, right now, you may or may not realize, but Amazon has been raising its pricing. Its prices on 2,600 items, small items. And now that I know this, I'm looking at the price at Amazon. I say, wait a second, this is more money. It went from 15 to 19. Now, of course, 15 to 19 is, is nothing, right? It's not a big deal. Well, I mean, basically the pricing at Nike, Walmart, Macy's, Best Buy, these retailers implemented selective surgical price increases. When I hear that, it tells me that they are careful making sure they don't upset the boss. They don't upset Trump right now. Why? Well, because then he comes after them. And don't forget to join this channel for you to know what's happening in the world. And most importantly, because it's not a news channel, this is an analytical channel. I want to figure out what are the risks, right? Nike, for example, has been raising its prices selectively. So inflation is coming. Slowly, creeping, it's coming. Why is it not all coming out? Believe it or not, Trump is holding the house of cards together. Trump is controlling the entire process. Trump wants Powell out, and he told Bessent, okay, fine. You deal with it, but I want him out. And yes, you get the job. If he's out, if he quits, you get the job. I'm telling you, Bessent is going to be it. Unless they do Christopher Wallen, but that's going to depend, because right now what they're doing, if I'm Christopher Wallen, I'm going to say, okay, I want the job too, but then I could help you during the meeting of the Fed, because there's 7 governors at the Fed and 7 and 5 governor, 7 governor and 5 president, right? I could try to have a dissent to help you, but if I help you, then I want to be the next Fed chair. Now, Bessent is probably telling Trump, okay, let me have him quit. So basically what you're going to have is those 2 things. Either the Fed that lower rates, and therefore that means that Chris Wallen is going to become the next Fed, or, and that's going to be something, the current Fed chair quit his job. In that case, Bessent becomes a new Fed chair. So I would be careful. Not that so my utility is high, my taxes are high, my grocery is high. Okay, so you see, right? That's what I'm noticing too. I'm noticing that this is happening. I am noticing that there's a tremendous amount of growth and a tremendous amount of inflation is kicking through. And you need to know that. Why? Because if Trump is successful, which I don't think he's going to be as much as he thinks, right? Because once these 2 people, either Bessent or Wallen, they get the job and they look at the inflation, they're going to say, I'm sorry, but I can't lower the rates, right? So now obviously you need to understand that. Why? Well, because if after the fact they realize they need to raise the rate, so maybe now is the time to buy a car and now is the time to refinance your house as soon as the rate goes down. So my view is going to be you're going to have this in terms of the rates. Now, as this is happening, depending if the Fed chair leaves, then Bessent becomes a new chair. And if rates don't move, if rates actually go down in July, then Wallen could becomes the next Fed chair, because you understand he's also working the phones over there as well. So you're gonna have this rate. So buy your car, refinance your loans right now, but then, as we know, and you heard it first, you heard it here first, inflation is creeping up slowly. So then you're lowering the rate, but then the next meeting, inflation is going to be doing this, and they're going to have to raise the rates again. Even though they don't want to, even though Trump is going to be really, really, really pissed, they're going to have to do it. So that's probably what's going to happen. And this is why this channel is important to you, because we're kind of, telling you, and we'll find out if I'm right or not. Check me out. We'll see. But I'm telling you, this is what's happening right now. This is what's happening in the background. This is exactly the concern that, and of course, the Democrats. But of course, now Europe is a tougher spot than US. Yeah, Quest, you're correct. And I'm going to do a video on that this week. Because right now, believe it or not, they are now having issues that probably we're going to face in the future, but right now they have a tremendous amount of debt that needs to be taken care of. And how are they going to take care of that debt? Right? In France right now, what's happening, and that happened in Greece, that happened in Portugal, that happened in Italy, now it's happening to France, which is very Western, right? Closer to the U.S. than before. Greece, okay, but France, really, we have a problem. Yeah, they have so much debt right now that the government has said we need to cut costs. I said, well, raise taxes on the rich. No, it's not enough. So we're gonna take 2 days away. Listen to this. We're gonna take 2 days away from your holidays. That's it. That's where it starts. And we may have to go after the retiree. Now, I don't want to bring up this topic, but in the US, I mean, there's enough money for 9 years to pay the retirees. After that, we got to find another way of doing it. I guess you could, borrow more and borrow more money and print more money. But by that time, the US might be very weak. So in Europe right now, back to Europe, Europe is very weak. And of course, at the same time they're saying that, they're saying, we need more weapons so we could start fighting well, not fighting, but protect ourselves, or being very belligerent against Russia. So you keep pushing on Russia. You keep tugging and pushing and tugging and pugging. That is going to be a problem for Europe. When all else fails, they take you to war. Yes. And that's what's going to happen with China. That's what's going to happen with China. With China, the more you keep poking at them, right? Now, of course, you can't say, well, it's all Trump's fault, because this needed to happen, right? The U.S. has been losing not the war, but has been losing the ability to make stuff. 2/3 of pharmaceutical items are not made in the U.S. We need to face reality that our rating was lower, true. Dollar's getting weaker, and countries are making other trades. Yes. If Russia pushing Europe, not the other way around. Well, there's a lot of things in there, right? What's going on is the dollar is getting weaker. And these countries are turning around the U.S. I mean, it's not going to happen right away. I mean, it's going to take a while before you get rid of the U.S. because it's 25% of GDP. But frankly, if you just Trump, I mean, would Kamala done the same thing? I mean, at the end of the day, you cannot live in a country where you don't make your pharmaceutical item. You cannot live in a country where you don't make your own weapons anymore, meaning that you need rare minerals. That's what you need to make missiles. Where are they all? It's in the U.S. And by the way, I did a video yesterday on Idaho Resources, which is in my Patreon channel. It's a gold / rare mineral company. I think I recommended it like 2 weeks ago. It's at 50%. Why? Well, because it's rare minerals. Everybody wants to get the rare minerals. Maybe the government's going to take it over because they need it. They mine this stuff. They own the mine too, which is great. So the issue you're going to have is all these countries are going to be, China is going to want to do its thing and remain independent and keep making stuff. But the U.S. says, no, I need to make my own stuff. So no, it's okay. We'll do it for you. Just give me the dollar. No, because the more we do it, the more we learn how to do it. And then once we're done, we'll let you be and we'll be fine. And I think Trump realizes, you got to do something. You can't let them control everything the way they do. Why? Because you don't know how to make it. You forgot how to make very important things. And the more you forget, the worse it gets for the U.S. So you need to make your own stuff. And that's the issue that we're having right now. I would speak to Putin and Kim Jong. Now, having said that, be careful. Okay, because I'm talking to MAGA, right? I say MAGA and Trump. So the MAGA with the Epstein was one thing. MAGA with Iran was another thing. And of course, unfortunately, Trump decided that he's going to send some weapons to Russia, to Ukraine. But he's not going to send a weapon. He's just going to sell that to them. But hold on. What are you doing? You can't just sell. You're gonna have to. The army is gonna have to help the Ukrainian manage the weapons, right? So you're involved against Russia, and I'm gonna do a video on this this week. Is actually talking about testing nuclear weapons, because don't forget, Europe is after Russia in a very bad way now, right? They said we're gonna spend $900 billion in weapons and NATO and blah blah blah, and we're gonna so all these countries are pushing, and you need to realize there's a risk. You're telling me that all of these things are gonna work out just fine the way they used to? I don't think so. I think these things could end up in a very bad way of future. How could they end up? Listen, what do I have? I have 8 items: the Trump economy, the small cap focus, the dollar, the tariffs. Number 5, Trump versus Powell. Number 6, Iran versus Israel. Number 7, China and the US. Number 8, inflation. I'm going to have to add number 9, the Russia situation. You need to be aware of what's happening. Do not be a consumer of information only. Be a user of that information, but not to figure out what's happening. I mean, who knows? I'm sure you're on your phone all the time. I mean, would you believe that the average on these videos that I put, the average retention rate is about a minute, right? How could you learn anything in 1 minute, right? And yet you're listening. So what is it that you're missing? Well, I just want to know. Well, no, you need to know and you need to understand. But obviously, if you're going to listen to Bloomberg and if you're going to listen to CNBC, CNN, and Fox, what do you think the end game is there? Is for them to tell you what you want to hear. If you listen to Al Jazeera, for example, all you hear is about all the horrible thing that Israel is doing on Gaza. I mean, I'm sure some of it is I mean, you could argument on both sides, unfortunately, right? No, you cannot be on both sides. You got to be on one side. Okay, so all you hear is that, look, Israel did this, Israel did that, Israel did this, Israel did that. So that's one-sided, unfortunately. You go to CNN. Well, Trump is horrible. He's throwing all these people out of the country. This is not right. What are you learning there? Are you learning anything? Yeah, Trump is a bad guy. But what are you going to do with it? Are you understanding what's happening? Yeah, he's a bad guy. Okay, and I don't want to hear that. And then I go to Fox. Trump is great. He's going to make America great again. So you're basically, so what these people think that we are bots. Well, I mean, no, they just want you to watch, and it's like kids with Santa Claus, right? Tell me that Santa Claus exists. Yeah, Santa Claus exists, kid. Yeah. He's going to come down the chimney. He's going to come down all this chimney at the same time. He's going to do all that work together, and you believe it. And why do you think more people watch YouTube than Netflix? And forget the networks. Why? Because finally, they get to hear what people are really thinking, right? Like Maria says, I get my news from ground news. The Quest saying these people think bots, right? You need to be informed. You need to be informed. I mean, you could read books, but that unfortunately is past, right? Now you have the ability, for example, let's take this simple fact that you've got Powell, and then you've got Bessent, and you got Whalen, right? What's going on between the three of them? What I think is happening is that Trump wanted to fire him. We all know that, yes, but we also know it's not possible. So Trump went to Bessent and said, I want him out. And in fact, I'm going to do a video on that. In fact, Trump reacted to that, by the way, that Bessent said that he wanted to fire him, and he said no, and I will talk about this more, I think the day after tomorrow. But basically, Bessent told him, listen, we can't fire this guy. It's going to be too destructive. Let's pressure him. Let's get him to quit. And let's maybe, give him something. Give him a job or something at a private equity firm or whatever, a hedge fund making big bucks, so he goes away. Okay? Because we're going to undermine him. We're going to undermine what he's saying. First, we're going to undermine the fact that he spent $2 billion in this huge building and it doesn't make any sense. Well, we'll see about that. Now we're going to say that, you know what, you're doing fear-mongering. When you said that you don't believe what the tariffs are doing, you're getting involved into politics. You're questioning the president. You're not impartial. You blah, 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 right? So Trump said, if I keep doing it, and if he quits, then you get the job. Because Bessent didn't say that he doesn't want the job, by the way. Whalen says, well, I want the job too. In fact, let me help you in July 29th, when we're meeting, I will work the crowd, work the phone, or work the chairs or whatever, so that we actually do have dissent at the Fed and we lower the rates. That's how these things are. These how these games are played. Now, for you, you say, well, how is that going to impact me? Well, the way it's going to impact you is the pressure is definitely on lower rates. So don't buy a car now because rates are going to be lower. But at the same time, we also know that there's going to be pressure on the inflation. Why? Because I told you already. I told you that Amazon is raising rates. No, I talked to this privately. It's been a good talk. I see you pay attention. Yeah, no. You gotta pay attention to it. You have to understand what's happening. It is extremely important to understand what's happening. So, what's gonna happen? I want you to join this channel as I am explaining to you all the things that are happening and what they really mean and what's really going on, right? The same way I'm doing the same thing when I used to manage portfolios, right? Stock portfolios. You need to have in your own mind. You have to decide what do you think is going to happen, right? Should you buy stocks now or not? Well, right now, yeah, you should be buying stocks, but you need to buy stocks for the downturn. What does that mean? Well, you don't want to spend too much on a stock. You don't want take a look at P/E ratios, for example. P/E ratios on average around 25 in the U.S. 25, and Tesla is 150, which is ridiculous. Okay. So what do you do? Well, don't buy an Nvidia. Don't buy Tesla. Even though they may be going up, maybe you buy an option for like the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But be careful because it's overpriced. And if it's overpriced, you don't want it. But you still need to then buy cheap stocks. Buy small caps. Market capitalization of less than $2 billion. So when the market crashes, collapse, you're not going to lose 50%. Maybe you only lose 20%. We're all going to lose, unfortunately. Why? But the market cannot go higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And by the way, I give you my every day on Patreon. In the morning, I give you a market commentary so you have a better idea what's happening. But the market can go higher and higher and higher, knowing that inflation is creeping up and knowing that rates are going to go down. I mean, Christmas comes once a year, but you're going to have to pay the piper. What you should do, you should probably start to looking at Europe because Europe is very cheap. You're going to buy when it's cheap. Don't buy when it's expensive. Or don't buy anything. Wait, like I did, and then let the market go down, and then you buy. And that's okay too. But don't ride the waves. Don't just go along to get along, because what's going to happen, you're going to lose money, right? I mean, this is why this is important for you to have a feel as to what's going on, have an understanding of all the issues, and trying to estimate as to what's going to happen next. This is the idea behind the Black Swan. The Black Swan is all about explaining the many, and we have 9 risks right now that you need to understand. Why do you need to understand those risks? Because they will impact your life. They will impact your portfolio. They will impact everything that you do. And that is why, my friends, I believe that it's important to grasp, to understand what's happening. But where do I get the information? Well, the information is always available to you, right? If you listen to Bloomberg, they will tell you what's happening. But what are they really telling you? They're telling you what the account managers and what the portfolio managers are talking about. That's what you're getting, right? And what you should ask yourself is, well, before I listen to these people talking, I need to understand, what do I mean by buy Europe? Well, stock prices in Europe right now, the stock market in Europe is doing better than the U.S. Spain is up 20% this year, while the U.S. is up maybe 5% year over year. Okay, so what you want to do, Not getting into stock in Europe because that would be too complicated. But there's plenty of ETF that trades European stocks. And why do you want Europe? Well, the same way the P ratio, which is a way to value stocks, are around 25 in the US, it's around 16 to 17 in Europe. It's very cheap. It's cheaper than it's going up, but it's cheaper than the US. Why? Because for years and years, the money was with the S&P 500, which is frankly not the S&P 500. It's the Magnificent Seven, right? It was with Nvidia, it was with Tesla, it was with Amazon and Microsoft and Meta, right? The Magnificent Seven. These are the one. I don't think Tesla is part of it, but these are the ones you make the money. So people are like, forget Europe. Who cares, right? But then Trump came in, the tariffs, and people got upset and people got scared. In fact, exactly what you were saying about the dollar. They say, this is, you're changing the paradigm here. You're not supposed to play around with tariffs the way you do, because tariffs is it's not politics, right? Yes, it is. Well, then all bets are off, because now you're using the fact that you're a big guy to push us around. That's not right, blah, blah, blah. So then they took their money, they sold, and they went to Europe and they bought stocks over there. And that's why the dollar lost its value a lot. Why? Not that Europe is better than the US. It's just that the money went there. That's it. No. Why? Why did the money go to Europe? Well, I mean, the same way why people traveling from Canada coming to the U.S. Maybe they figured, you know what? This is too unpredictable. We thought, and don't forget, when J.D. Vance went to Europe, he told them, guys, we're not going to storm the Normandy anymore. You're on your own. What? You're on your own. Spend your own money. We're not spending more money. So it is Fortress America. Just, you know what? Forget you. The money moves quickly. The money is the first thing to move, and that's what happened. I mean, Europe is a bad place to bet on. Well, I mean, again, you want to. It's part of my portfolio is foreign. Yeah, no, you have to have foreign stocks. Yeah, I mean, you say you should have gold. Well, you should have foreign stocks. You should have small company stocks, small caps. Now, of course, it's not exciting, right? Everybody wants to own the $4 trillion Nvidia. It's too late, right? Costa Rica. I don't know about Costa Rica, but it's too late for Nvidia. Right? The price has gone up too much. I mean, it could keep on going up, but I mean, how much money can you make on that? No, you want to buy what nobody's buying, which is what I always say to my investors and to my subscribers. You want to buy what everybody else is selling, and you want to sell when everybody else is buying. Right now, everybody is buying. Now, of course, it's not going up a lot. Don't forget, we took a huge drop in April, and we're back up, making money, but not like Europe. And frankly, we don't know where this whole thing ends up. And there's a lot of uncertainty, right? I mean, the Fed discussion is one thing. I mean, what are we going to do with Powell? Are we going to, is he going to leave? Is he not going to leave? What's happening with Trump? Now, of course, you're going to ask, could this have happened if Kamala was elected? Well, I mean, at some point, don't forget, Biden, remember him? He was talking about the CHIP Act. Remember the CHIP Act that was kind of last year? Nobody probably paid too much attention. But he also he said, we got to start making stuff in the U.S. So this thing it's not just a Trump thing, right? It's just the way he comes across, right? He's supposed to, technically, since he's a president, he's supposed to say, okay, you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. Come with me, right? Let's create. But he's not like that. I mean, he's saying, you don't like me, you're gone. I'm just dealing with my MAGA people. But even with the MAGA people, it's sometimes tough, right? Because some of them question the whole thing with Epstein. And he said, you're listening to the Democrats and blah, blah, blah. And that's a little tough to mistake, right? Because you're supposed to at least take care of the MAGA people. At the end of the day, maybe you're just taking care of one person, which is Trump. But hey, it's working. One, the market is up. Two, NATO spent 5%, right? Three, the big, beautiful bill got passed. Four, Powell is under attack. Okay, who knows? Let's see if he. Five, Iran, Israel, taken care of. There are a lot of small companies that are being supported by the younger generation. Yes, you wanna get small companies. You want to get the companies that you wanna. Believe it or not, companies have done the best. Are company with low P. You do not make money. There was a study that was done. If the P ratio is more than 25, if it's too high, you don't make money with these companies. You need to buy low P stocks. Now, I am not saying to buy Walmart or companies with low growth. No, you need to buy them when they're cheap. You want to buy Amazon when he was in his garage and he wasn't doing anything and no one cared what he was doing. That is what you want to do. That's what you want to do. You want to invest when nobody is looking at it. You can't make $240 a year pumping septic tank. Well, it's a very dangerous job. That's a very well, it's like everything else, right? How do you make money? You want to, for example, when I used to manage rental properties, this is what Trump's father used to do. These guys used to have the most dirtiest, disgusting, cheap properties in Queens. But yet, they made a lot of money. The father made millions of dollars on that. Why? Because the dirtier it is, the more dangerous, the more money you make. And that's something that I've learned when I was doing rental properties is that you need. But the thing is, you need to understand the risk in rental properties. That's a big thing. Why? Listen, you think that rental properties, you just come in and you just rent, and people pay you, and you just sit there and collect the money? No, you have to pick the people, clean the place, find new tenants, right? What's the risk of that? How do you measure the risk? I don't know. I mean, you don't get fined. Are you getting paid for the risk? I will tell you, I was making 40% return before expenses. But the time you took care of the expenses, down to 20%. Down 20%. But the risk that you take in renting and the tenants and all that is more than 20%. For example, what is the risk right now that Bessent is going to become the next Fed chair? I would say 50-50. It's either him or Wellen. It's going to depend whether or not the rates are being lowered or that Powell is being kicked out. I haven't lost a bet in 11 years. Oh, by the way, if some of you are betting people, let's talk about, it may not involve everyone, but as part of the big, beautiful bill, I don't know if you know, but for gamblers, you are now not allowed to deduct 100% of your winnings. You can only deduct 90% of your winnings. So basically, if you go to a casino, you make $10,000, and then you have a good time and you lose the $10,000 on your taxes, you could say, well, I didn't make any money, so you cannot tax me. Even though, be careful, because your taxable income goes up because you made $10,000. But now with the big beautiful bill, you cannot deduct 100. You can only deduct 90%. So you still made $1,000, even though you lost 10,000. So that's a problem. I mean, it's not this year, but starting next year. So be careful next year if you go to the casino. And if you lose a lot of money, but you win a lot of money, and at the end of the day, you don't make any, you technically made money. You made 10% of that bill. No, money is not everything. I agree. Always talking about money. The job is important. I think you need to you need to make sure you get a good job and something that's of interest to you, right? Otherwise, what I'm doing now, right? I mean, I'm not getting paid for this, quite frankly. I just like the idea of sharing my opinion and making sure that people understand what's happening. And believe it or not, the more you think about things, the more you realize things, and the more you share. Betting is not for film, and family is important. The question is totally right. You need family as well, but you need to provide for your family, right? And right now, the discussion centers around Bessent demands full Federal Reserve review, and that's what's happening right now. Bessent is going to get his way. He's getting the review, and I think that deep down they are talking to Powell, and they're pressuring Powell, and they're going to pressure Powell. They talked about to farm. They're pressuring Powell. So I want you to join this channel, obviously, because I want you to be fully informed as to what is going on in the world, and more importantly, to understand the risks involved in everything that we do. So don't forget, join the channel, okay? And I would say take a look at the Patreon channel, because that Patreon channel, I don't know, I have 350 comments or whatever, and every day I talk about what's happening in the market. I talk about what the potential of what's going to happen in the market. I talk about the future. Talk about the stock market, more importantly. For example, right now, I believe that the odds of having Powell or of Bessent or the other guy, the other Fed chair, to become the next Fed chair, which is Chris Whelan. Chris Whelan basically right now, I bet you that he's talking to Trump, or he's saying, or first of all, he actually said it. I want to become the next Fed chair. He also said that I believe the Fed should be independent. Okay. He also said, I believe that the rate should be lower. What do you think is going to happen in that meeting in December, in July, right? Basically, you've got 7 governors, Federal Reserve Board of Governors. 2 of them are Trump appointees, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Whelan. And then you have 5 non-Trump appointees. Basically Philip Jefferson, Lisa Cook, Michael Barr, blah, 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 all appointed by Biden or Obama. And you could bet that he's going to say, no, we're not doing it. Okay, so I don't think that they're going to vote for the rate. But you could have dissent, right? And all these people are being pressured in a very, very serious way this time around. It is not business as usual. Do you think that Powell is used at this type of pressure for hours and hours and days? I don't think so. I don't think that's his thing to be done. So, and the Federal Reserve Regional Bank president, because you got 12 seats and 5 voting at any given time, none are directly appointed by the president. Regional presidents are selected by local boards. So I doubt very much that Weller is going to be able to sway the board. He may make noise. I may show him trying, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it that way. So very unlikely he's going to have rate decrease. Maybe they don't do anything. Maybe there's lots of noise. But Bessent, on the other end, Bessent might get his way with Powell by pressuring him enough that Powell leaves. Do you think that's possible? If he does, I tell you right now, Bessent is my man. I believe Bessent is going to be the guy, although, between now, which is July, and May of next year, I mean, Bessent is going to have to be really, really good at what he does, and he's going to have to be really, really nice to Trump in order to be able to continuously please him and tell him it's going to be okay, it's going to work out, we're going to be just fine. And, the thing is, Trump is not like that. Trump is not going to wait until May. The same way Trump is not going to wait too long for the Iranian to allow the U.S. to go in there, which is my risk That's what is it? Risk number 6, right? I have 10 risks. The first one is the Trump economy. The second one, which I think is doing great. The second one is small company focus. That's going to be always great because it's very cheap. Small company means small caps. Number 3, the dollar. The dollar is going to weaken. Okay. Number 4 is Trump versus Powell. Let's see what happens, but I think that Powell is going to leave. Iran versus Israel is number 6 out of 9. Iran versus Israel is going to start again at some point before the end of the year. And then number 6, you've got Iran versus, number 7, you got China. That's the one that you have to worry about. That is going to be a lot of damage. That's the one that you need to really worry about because that could be a big one. Although I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But who knows? Number 8 is inflation. Now, what's going on with inflation right now? Well, right now, inflation, if you take a look at the last thing that we looked at, 2.7 versus 2.4, 2.7 in June versus 2.4 in May. So it looks okay. Why do you care about that? This is extremely important. And I will tell you what. Let's go back in time. 1979, 1981, high inflation period. What caused it? Well, you have a shock, right? Supply shock. There was no oil went up. There was poor monetary policy, meaning that inflation was going up, right? And the Fed lowered the rates. Why? Because Arthur Burns was in Richard Nixon's pocket. And that's why you have to be very careful. If I know that, you could bet that Bessent and these guys know that that's what's going to happen, okay? So there was an oil shock, 1973 oil embargo. OPEC countries cut supply in response to U.S. support. 1979, there was the Iranian Revolution. So a lot of wars, which what we have now, right? Then there was loose monetary policy. Basically, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates too low. Why? Because the president wanted them low, and Arthur Burns listened. Arthur Burns, which is going to go down in the worst Fed president, and which shows that they are not independent. And then, of course, there was a wage spiral. Like the unions negotiated automatic wage increase tied to CPI. I mean, CPI goes up, well, then I'm increasing the wage. Wage goes up. So what happened? How did we fix the situation? Well, basically, the Fed failed repeatedly to control inflation during the 70s. Investors and consumers expected high inflation and acted accordingly. Basically, I need more money. I want to make more money. And finally, Volcker came in, Paul Volcker, 1980 to 1982. And you know what he did? He just not only raised, he spiked those rates. Spiked those rates so high that up to 12%. And the economy fell in a recession. And inflation, but inflation collapsed, obviously, from 13.5% in 1980 to 3.2% in 1983. That's the only way you can take care of it. Repealing Glass-Steagall was a big mistake. Well, that you could think our friend, the Democrat, Bill Clinton. But the reason he did it is because it was great, right? It was fantastic because it helped all these countries, all these the banks were able to bind together, and they were able to actually get stronger and stronger together. So that's how we're going to do it. So my friends, join me tomorrow, 10 o'clock, between 9 and 10 o'clock. I think we're going to have some more interesting discussions.